So if you want to... Jeno, then Richard Davey, President of Transit. Demetrius Critchlow will be here, and Pat Warren, the Head of Safety and Security. Those are the 4 people.
And there's no live stream, right?
There is no live stream, but I see some folks from the media are going to, fire it up. After the fact, we can get you a feed if you want. We're going to record it. We're just not live streaming it because every news organization in the city is here. Yep. All right, guys, here we go. They are ready.
Good morning. I'm MTA Chair and CEO Jano Lieber. Just wanted to give an update on the situation at 96th Street. We've made substantial progress overnight. First of all, we're thankful that the injuries so far to our passengers have been minor. There are roughly 25 people reported to have minor injuries, but we're grateful that this low-speed collision, it was a low-speed collision, did not injure more people. There's been substantial progress made overnight. 9 out of the 10 cars of the passenger train that was involved in the collision have been re-railed and moved out of the area. That allows us to focus work on the remaining car, which is off the rails. And because it's a low height area, it's in a tunnel, the process of re-railing it is a little complicated. There are professionals down there, God bless them. There's an army of people that have been down there overnight, haven't slept, 100 or more folks, and they're pretty far along in the process of re-railing that car. Once that car is re-railed, we will be able to begin the process of a partial restoration of service. We're expecting that to take place sometime today. So please, I would say to our customers, stay tuned to the My MTA app, online mta.info, and all of the social media, which will have information about service when it is restored. As I said, that's expected sometime later today. Can't give you an exact time, but we're pretty far along in the process. I would just add that the train that had been vandalized and damaged and which was involved in this collision is still going to be down there. Even when we restore service partially, we're going to still have to do some work on that train that is down there, the second train that was involved in the collision, and that's why there's going to be a limited service pattern after we do get service restored. As I said, I want to thank the workforce that's been down there. As we always say, it's an army that steps up. There is a professional group at the MTA that specializes in re-railing in these kinds of accidents. They did an amazing job, and they continue to do work. A note about our service. Last night and through right now, we have deployed an extensive fleet of additional buses to make sure that folks in this corridor do have service and that they're able to get where they're going and move around. Not as fast as everybody expects with the great New York City subway, but there have been 75 buses out there since yesterday. Most of them are operating as shuttle buses along this corridor, on the Broadway corridor that's been impacted by the loss of subway service. We've had a huge number of customer service personnel out there overnight, both station agents, the folks who have come out of the booths and are now interacting with customers every day, all day, and supplemental people as well to make sure we were getting information to our customers if they arrive at a station without a knowledge of what's going on. So huge progress that's been made. I did speak to the governor this morning and was in touch with her yesterday as well. She's very closely monitoring this. And a final note, we have begun the discussions with the NTSB, which is the National Transportation Safety Board, which is arriving today to begin their work, and there will be a meeting this morning to start their work in supplementing our investigation with their own, and we're looking forward to that dialogue as well. So with that, let me turn it over to Rich Davey.
Yeah. Thanks, Jano. I mean, you said it well. I'll just say a couple other things. First, again, appreciation to our workforce who have been working all night to restore service. As usual, transit workers, when called upon, respond tremendously, which is what they're doing. Just in terms of the complexity of why this is why we're being so diligent and cautious as we move this equipment around. As Jano said, the final car of the passenger train that derailed, there's no room, right? This is a tunnel, and so being able to lift this and move it's incredibly difficult. So they're literally lifting it a few inches, shimming it over, lifting it a few, shimming it over, literally. So that process takes a while. I think we're going to also put out a picture later to show you the front car of the train that was out of service, the truck, which literally holds the wheels together. The front truck, it's a box, if you will, that holds the four wheels together, was mangled. That has been taken away. The train is currently sitting on ties, railroad ties, literally wooden blocks. And the last piece of this will be to bring in a new truck, put the car on top of it, and then roll it out. Again, with only inches to spare in this tunnel, it's an incredibly delicate process, and the crew's doing just an amazing piece of work. So with that, I'll kick it back to Jano. We'll obviously take questions.
Hang on, we're not going to be yelling at them. You want to start, Lindsay?
Sure. I know you said that the investigation has just begun and that you'll be talking with the NTSB, but is there any preliminary thoughts on what exactly happened or what you could rule out happened?
No, I mean, sort of what happened, I think we can say. Why it happened, we can't, right? And that'll be part of the NTSB's investigation. But the passenger train, we believe, had a green light, a signal to proceed, and it was going from the express track to the local track. The train that was in distress, the one that was out of service because, as Jano mentioned, the vandalism, was proceeding and it didn't have the signal. As a result, it bumped into the train. Why, we don't know. That's still under investigation, and obviously with the NTSB's expertise, we look forward to working with them to get to the why.
Anybody else over here? Evan.
Why was there a flagger on the track? Was there work happening on that section of the track?
No, there was a flagger at the front of the train, right? So the train itself was inoperable, that train. It was being operated from the conductor position. And so that flagger, when you're operating the train from the middle of the train, is the eyes of the train. So that's what the flagger was doing.
So that flag was on the train?
Correct, yeah.
I'm sure this is the question everybody's asking right now, but in the block signaling system, the way it's set up on the one, how is it possible for a switch to be activated to get onto that local track when there's another train ostensibly activating blocks?
Well, obviously it's part of the investigation, but keep in mind this was a disabled train, right? So this was not a train that was functioning appropriately, which is why you had the several-man crew there to protect against. So you're right. In any other scenario, if these are two trains working, one wouldn't have been able to proceed. But because you had this out-of-service train with mechanical issues, but again, that's why you have multiple crews then as the eyes and ears of the train.
Right. Melissa, go ahead.
Yesterday you guys said that you didn't believe it was an equipment malfunction. Now, based off what you've learned overnight, is that changed?
No, it has not.
Anna?
Yeah, I'm curious what kind of work is still being done to the train that you guys said is going to stay down there even after service partially resumes?
Yeah, so again, so if you picture it, it's sort of the out of service train on the local track. That the head car is still leaning against the wall and only has one set of wheels, if you will. We need to move it back onto the track, obviously with the full set of wheels, and then move it. So that's going to take some time.
All right, back over here, Roger.
Yeah,
You understand, Anna, they understand the undercarriage where the wheels are, what we call the truck, with the axle and the wheels, and it's connected to the car body, was destroyed in this context. So now they've taken that destroyed, mangled truck out, and once they're able to get the passenger train fully out of there, that last car being derailed, they will be able to bring in a new truck, roll it down the track from 125th Street, and to install it on that car, so that car which is now lacking wheels.
Is that brake still out? The one that was stuck or whatever?
I don't think that's going to be a problem. When they get the wheels and they get everything on the rail and they get all the wheels operable, they will be able to roll it back to the yard.
All right, over here, Roger.
All right, I got a couple questions. I'm a little confused. The train that was disabled, you were saying it was moving anyway. So it was movable. It wasn't moving.
Correct. Yep.
And it went against, it had no signal, but it went anyway.
Correct.
The fact that it didn't pay attention to the signal, is that how somehow connected to the problems that train had?
I think that goes to the question of why. We're not sure yet. Obviously, that's going to be part of the investigation.
And the car that's stuck in the tunnel, that you don't have much headroom, that's that was from the passenger train that was in operation.
So there are two that we're working on right now. As Gino said, the last car on the passenger train, the one that was in service, is being re-railed as we speak. Once we get that out of the way, we'll be able to run limited service. Then we'll move over to the second car, which has the truck, the wheels that were mangled, and we need to bring them in.
From the other train.
Correct. That's right.
The one where there's not a lot of clearance in the tunnel.
It's both. It's all. There's very little clearance.
So there are two trucks in the tunnel.
There are two trains in the tunnel, but the tunnel is low clearance everywhere.
I got to move on. Romney, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Romney with NBC. My question is about the timeline. I know it's possible right now. Would this bleed into the afternoon, early evening, or potentially the weekend?
I mean, we'll see. I mean, our hope is to try to get back, as Gino said, some service today. And that's our goal. But again, as we said, it's a pretty complicated sequence of events. We need to get that last train out, re-railed first. We can potentially then run some limited service, and then go attack the out-of-service train, which has the mangled truck.
So will those buses still be in place, I guess, this evening?
They'll be in place as long as we need them. Absolutely.
All right, time for a couple more. Yeah.
Signal system was put in place to ensure that something like this doesn't happen, and it wasn't working. So what happened? How did it happen?
Again, the signal system needs to interact with the train itself. The train that moved, it was disabled, right? And so when you have the mechanical portion of the train that is having challenges, that's why you have, a secondary backup, which in this case were, the operators. We're looking at all these issues to be sure. But again, as mentioned, this was a train that was vandalized. People pulled emergency brakes. We tried to reset it. We couldn't. The crew couldn't reset one. We had to get rid of that train and get it out of the way. So the frustrating part is someone decided to play a prank or do something, otherwise vandalize our train, and here we are.
All right, last question. I'm going to start and end with Lindsay Tuckman. Go ahead.
Thank you. Daniel, just a quick question. Obviously, this was a slow speed incident.
Yeah.
Thank God no one was severely injured. But for people who are a little nervous, what if the trains are going faster? What do you say to passengers that are getting on the other trains today?
Well, listen, the New York City subway system operates, first of all, it's operating more reliably and with more service than it has in many, many years. So the overall system is working well. The frequency of these kinds of events is so rare. The last one is, I think it was in 2020 when there was a derailment, and before that it was 5+ years before that. So they're really infrequent problems, and there's a reason this was a low-speed collision, which is there was a disabled train that was operating, was not operating normally, and it was moving very, very slowly and very carefully. So, this is trains are not supposed to run into each other ever, but there's a reason this was low-speed collision, and people should feel comfortable getting back on the train and getting where they need to go.
All right, thanks everybody. Thank you very much.
NTSB got involved?
It's their choice. It's always their choice.
Yeah, they decide. Thank you.